I heard you mention second chance. I hate that term because a lot of times it's the first chance. When you look at whether somebody's incarcerated just for being in the wrong situation or the color of their skin or where they grew up or different things like that, this could be their first chance to actually ingest education and figure out a career path and understand things that are actually available to them instead of looking at what was just kind of in their neighborhood.
Hello, and welcome to Power Beyond Pride, a weekly queer change-making podcast bringing you voices and ideas from across our fierce and fabulous spectrum to transform our world. I'm Shane Lukas, he, him. I am a lifelong harm reductionist, a lifelong advocate, activist. I own a great idea, and I am slowly but surely trying to figure out how to do yoga. So I do welcome any tips there. That is my current fascination for the year, that and picking up Spanish. So I don't know what everybody else is trying to learn how to do, but I'm a lifelong learner too.
All right, that was a lot. So I'm going to try to follow that up. I am Mattie, the loudest one in the room except for today because I do have a voice issue, but I am still here. And guess what? My personality is louder than my voice itself. So yes, we are here. Unlike Shane, I am not trying to do yoga because I am lactose intolerant, so I can't do that with my body. Secondly, also, you said you're learning Spanish. I think I know Spanish, but very un poquito, and I know just enough about leche and how to ask for a glass of aquafina. That is about my extent when it comes to Spanish. And I do apologize. I am going to do better about that, but that is who I am. Our guest today is someone who shows up in the intersection of education, justice, and humanity. He is a clear leader working in infrastructure, not just building systems, but helping to rebuild lives. Adam Henderson is the vice president of Orijin. He works alongside correctional facilities and employers to make sure that justice-impacted individuals don't just get a second chance, but get real tools, real dignity, and a real pathway to a sustainable future. Welcome, Adam. It's nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us today at Power Beyond Pride, Adam.
So glad. It's great to connect. Shane and I have met a couple of times. Mattie, it's great to actually meet you virtually. So happy to be here.
Yes. I will say this to y'all who are listening and watching us. I just recently met Adam, but I can tell you he is the funniest person that you'll ever meet. And he is the sweetest person. So I think this is going to be a great conversation. I'm looking forward to it today.
I feel crush energy going on right now. I feel all this crush energy going on.
Just
I don't know if you can see, but I'm blushing a little bit. So
Adam, it takes a selfless person to work at the intersection of incarceration, education, and embetterment, right? So, I mean, it's incredible, your commitment and work in this area. And again, it's a beautiful thing, and it affirms really early on what it means to think about those in society when we talk about not just second chances, but we talk about what it means to live in a system that really wants to encourage people opportunities to bridge maybe past decisions or poor decisions and moving forward. And I'd love to know a little bit about what influenced you in your life to go into this pathway.
I kind of say I fell into it, but I think I'm giving it not a true statement when I say that. I really tried to, I was talking to Mattie earlier. I was in ed tech and education publishing for a really long time. And one of those things, it was like, all right, yes, we're helping students, we're helping teachers, we're helping parents and homeschool, but there has to be something more. And I had an opportunity to connect with the co-founder of the company that I work with, Orijin, that I work with now. And it was like, all right, this is what I've been kind of looking for. I heard you mention second chance. I hate that term because a lot of times it's the first chance. When you look at whether somebody's incarcerated just for being in the wrong situation or the color of their skin or where they grew up or different things like that, this could be their first chance to actually ingest education and figure out a career path and understand things that are actually available to them instead of looking at what was just kind of in their neighborhood. So it's kind of become education has always been in the forefront, which is odd for me to say because I never finished college. I started and stopped my undergrad for many years, but it was until my mid 40s that I was able to find an executive MBA program to where I was able to do an MBA program in 12 months because I always kind of felt I had that thing lacking. But yeah, so it's always kind of been education has always kind of been, I've seen a path to what an individual deems as successful. We shouldn't judge what they think is success. So that was a lot. So
No, but you're right. I would definitely say that goes back to the old cliche, those who can't do teach. So don't be upset that it took you so long to finish your undergrad. I think in all honesty, we put a lot of emphasis on that piece of paper. We put a lot of emphasis
mhm.
on that degree, but in reality, I had a friend break it down to me the other day, and I actually had to agree with him. He was like, college itself wasn't just for the education, it was for the experience and the networking. And I had to agree with him. I'm like, there was a lot that I learned in college, but then there was a lot that I learned in college.
100%.
So I think that that doesn't necessarily come from going to school. I think anybody can get that same type of learning in everyday life. But I do want to go back and touch on something because you made a comment about the education part. So it sounds like you have a bigger connection with education. So what got you into education and what made you an advocate for education?
I kind of fell into education at the very beginning. So when I lived in Baltimore, I worked at big box retail and I got tired of kind of the grind. And so I found a small education chain that sold materials to teachers and schools and parents. So I started working for them and then did that for a few years and then kind of got an idea of it's like, oh, there's more to this. And
Mhm.
then got into the sales side of things, working for a publisher. And that's when we moved to Greensboro. And again, it was kind of like, all right, this is almost there, but not quite what I want to do. And then I got into with another publishing company and they had a whole kind of homeschool division. And the interesting part was, and it was right when the 2008 crash. So there was a lot of white collar individuals were losing their jobs. And I'm talking to these families where, all right, the father may have lost his job, the mother's still working, but they realize that they can pull their kids out of private school and form a network.
Mhm.
And so dad maybe was a scientist, so he's teaching science. This other person was an accountant, so they're teaching math. So they're pulling these resources together. And that's when it all kind of clicked. It's like, okay, so there's more than just that traditional, what you would call K-12 path. And then did that for a while. And that's kind of really what drove me into looking for something bigger to provide people access to that non-traditional, which is, I think, super important.
It's interesting you talk about non-traditional, especially in this current moment where there's so much untethering from existing systems, right? The DOE is being undone. Many of these systems and infrastructures that have taken decades to put into place that
Mhm.
serve across communities. And it's now sort of forcing a reconciliation about what it means, because a lot of that is done to diminish some of the benefits of public education where you created areas of multiplicity. Now it's really starting to target either private ownership or target stuff like religious affiliation and religiously affiliated schools. Are you thinking just bringing that expertise of having like non-traditional education from the corporate side, and then now you're working in these areas around providing and working with education for those individuals who have experienced incarceration? Are you seeing opportunities for transformative education where people may rethink some of these systems so that they do become more representative of how people are able to bring themselves into the room? Is there a desire, and do you see some pathway where this becomes more equitable over time?
That's a great question. So I work with the state of Massachusetts, and every incarcerated individual in a state prison has access to programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when you talk programming, it's not only education. So they have an amazing team that pulls
Yes.
together the understanding where all of and they have about 5,500 people in state prisons in Massachusetts. but understanding the spectrum of learning. Do you need to go back and understand what letters and numbers are, to phonetics, to basic math and reading skills? So they create programs and deliver it through the Orijin platform. And then they actually have live instruction that they can do very similar to what we're doing here through video. But then they take it, okay, it's great to focus on the education. You have to address the trauma from the past. So what's understanding why you are incarcerated, understanding that you have to take ownership of that. Granted, there are some systemic things that could have caused it, but you have to understand that you play a part in that also. And then planning for the future. Mattie mentioned, I think it was Mattie that mentioned about college. We had a generation, almost 2 generations that we pushed into post-secondary, into college and university, and not into the trades. So there's a huge gap coming, and it's coming fast. So understanding that you can make a great living getting your hands dirty, working on plumbing, working on HVAC, mechanics, and different things like that. So it's really just but there are, in Massachusetts, they actually have all these different types of simulations to understand what you want to get into. What does it look like to be a HVAC tech? Or what does it look like this? And then what is your earning potential? And then they start trying to make the connections post-release. So they have that kind of warm handoff to whether it's an apprenticeship program or actually employment. But then on the flip side, we still very much live in you did the crime, you do the time in some areas. So it's okay, well, excuse me, you don't get access to anything unless you can pay for it. And then so it's the spectrum, and you can highlight these really powerful programs that are happening, and they're seeing the recidivism rates drop, and you're seeing employment gains, but then you also, on the flip side, you can see where individuals just struggle, and it's the constant cycle. It's like, all right, you're released, I'll see you back in 60 or 90 days. So,
but that really underscores it. Yeah, it really underscores that a lot of people aren't really maybe familiar with the impact that type of education can have on recidivism, right? That providing opportunities for people to have multiple paths forward. Because as you said, many people who have experienced incarceration or other stigmas in society sometimes feel like there aren't opportunities. There's only one path. When they try to go for traditional paths, if you do have previous incarcerated experience, and again, queer people experience this from homophobia and transphobia, people who are incarcerated have histories of incarceration, experience these types of stigmas. And so there's initiatives like Ban the Box and other ones that have really tried to reduce some of the impact of that stigma, but it's only so successful, right? It certainly has some success, but it's still a lot of barriers. And so being able to show that programs that give people avenues toward these gaps, where there are these employment gaps, that people can be there, but also the education to make sure that people who have experienced incarceration do have opportunities outside of that experience once they become part of our larger communities. We're going to take a very short break right now. We're going to come back. This is a great conversation with Adam Henderson. I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Mattie Bynum, and we will be back in just a moment.
All right, and welcome back to Power Beyond Pride. We are sitting here talking with the amazing Adam Henderson. Y'all, I told y'all in the beginning, he is so much more than just the conversation we're having today. He is the sweetest person I think I have met in one of the longest times of my life, and hilarious. He reminds me of someone, I'm not going to name drop, but he reminds me of someone very, very funny that I haven't seen in a long time. But anywho, coming back into the conversation, and I'm also here with my beautiful co-host, Shane. I can never leave him out.
And who's not nearly as funny. So that's true.
I was going to say, if I did leave you out, your shirt is so high yellow, highlighter yellow, that we would never lose you. And so you will always be with us, no matter where we go. You are the light that shines in the world. Adam, I want to come back to you and talk about, you were talking about Massachusetts, and I think that's a beautiful program that they have, but why is that not a actual national program? Why is that not across the board with all prisons to have a system to help you to come back and acclimate back into life?
That's my goal. A lot of times it comes down to money. And I sit in rooms with a lot of very powerful people in government, and understanding how who I'm sitting across the table from can be a
Mhm.
challenge. Understanding, trying to make sure that while I have very lofty goals and progressive goals, not the person across the table from me may not. So how do I get them to understand that investing in a person's life is going to benefit them? So a lot of
Mhm.
times it comes down to, I can talk about all the programs and the outcomes and people gaining knowledge and workforce development skills and understanding their trauma and just becoming better humans. But a lot of times it boils down to, all right, what do you want on your balance sheet? Do you want somebody that is a liability that's going to cost you anywhere from 65,000 to $250,000 a year to house in prison? Or do you want to actually spend money and rehabilitate that person and give them an opportunity to be successful and move them from a liability to an asset on the balance sheet? Because they now become, not only do you not have to pay that yearly cost of incarceration, but they're now tax paying citizens. And not only, and it's interesting, I made that to a comment to somebody, and they're like, we don't have state income tax. Okay. You still pay taxes. You have sales tax, you have a tax on all of these different things, but it's we're seeing change.
I was gonna say it's almost as thing because like we were talking during the break, if you go to certain states, especially in the southern states, it's almost as if they're systematically trying to keep people in prison versus rehabilitating them to bring them out. So in that and with that segment of incarceration, how do you push back or what can we do to push back to stop things like that?
So let's talk about Tennessee.
Mhm.
So a very conservative state. We I've worked with the Department of Labor in Tennessee, and understanding that they need to provide adult basic education through, so that early literacy and numeracy to a high school equivalency, so like GEDs. But so they need that education piece. But then there was the workforce underlay. So the Governor Lee in Tennessee, is huge on workforce development. So he greenlit a program for all the county jails to have a unified program through Orijin to deliver the education and workforce development. And there's about 25 or 30,000 people that cycle through the jail system in Tennessee every year. But when you have huge projects happening like Ford Blue Oval City in Western Tennessee, where Ford's coming in to build a manufacturing plant, but they are also building the city all around it with all the resources. So you need labor, skilled labor to do all of those things. You have the new Nissan football stadium being built. You have all of these different projects, and the the leadership in Tennessee were able to see we have this gap of potential people to work. So I was at a conference and somebody gave me a new term. Instead of second chances, this is now hidden talent. So looking at people that were experienced some type of incarceration, that is hidden talent that is not being counted in the pipeline, but they can now point to, we have this population that has just been through electrical programs. We need them here. This
Mhm.
group has just been through IT programs and we need coders and different things like that. So looking at, that's how a lot of times I have the conversations with more conservative areas that are not willing to really invest, is you can, labor data is public information. So what do you need X thousands of people doing this work by this time. What are
Mhm.
you going to do about it?
I was saying, with that in mind, when you think about, I guess, obviously this impacts your workforce and your labor movements. Can you share a bit why queer people might be looking at this with more seeing the value of what queer liberation means in this context. Because I think a lot of people don't recognize how many people who've experienced incarceration, oftentimes, as you mentioned before, some having to do with systemic reasons. Obviously, there's a strong history of queer people being incarcerated for a variety of contexts. Can you talk a little bit about why our large queer community should be looking at these issues and really doing so with an eye about what it means to think about how we treat those who have been incarcerated and what it means to have that path to be out in general populace?
There's a huge stigma when somebody reveals that they are incarcerated. They have been incarcerated. Very much so. A lot of times when you reveal that you're queer, trans, gay, whatever, there's still a stigma depending on who's in the room. And that is, I try to navigate some of those conversations when I'm sitting in the room with different people. It can be a challenge at times, but when you're looking at the vast number of people that are currently incarcerated or formerly incarcerated that are queer or even heterosexual or whatever, that whole spectrum, we should all be able to relate to, because we all have had a challenge at some point in our lives based on solely on who we identify as or who we love or who we have in our circles. And I think this may be slightly controversial, but I think there's a level that people reach, whether you're heterosexual, queer, or whatever, that we begin to look down on people that have less than. And I think we're experiencing that in this country right now. And I think we all will benefit across the spectrum to take a step back and say, at any wrong decision, that could be me. I think a lot of people forget that. It could be a lot of people are one paycheck away from being bankrupt or
That's
one
true.
medical emergency.
Well, I guess it brings me to another question that kind of tags on that. In the way we talk about individual choice versus systemic oppression. And I'm curious your thoughts on this, is because oftentimes when we're talking about incarceration, when we're talking about punitive practices, we're often looking at the conversation solely from you as a human being have made a poor set of choices, and therefore this is your personal value system. And society is structured in such a way as to penalize those differently depending on your race, your gender, your age, where you live, your education level, all these different things we talk about in terms of privileges. But the punitive system has used that for over the years, right? Those distinctions to then determine what level of punitive practice they're going to employ, right? So whether or not somebody is found carrying some marijuana, for example, has just historically and numerically demonstrated the distinctions in that. Do you find in the conversations when you're talking about changes in carceral practice and opportunities, there's still this conversation about the system is just fundamentally stacked differently? Then we're oftentimes only talking about it as like this is about a person's value and their choices. And somehow this happens independently, that they don't live within a larger system that fundamentally wants to see that recidivism low. Like that we end up releasing people once they serve their time. They've technically done our national contracted agreement in terms of what that response to that crime might entail. And then we put them back in a system where there are very few choices. There are very few opportunities. There are very few things. And then we say they were just meant to come back into the prison system, where the reality is we haven't really changed any of the system they originally were in the first place. And so what are the other options? Because you take somebody, for example, who may want to go out into the world with another set of choices, but now their employment choices are limited. They're put out back into the general populace with little access to housing, resources, all these different things. And so it's hard to change that recidivism. And I think for queer people, this is really resonant because a lot of trans people of color, a lot of individuals who oftentimes are not able to access family or resources or are facing systems that they come into contact with and don't get that opportunity that then once they're out of prison or out of jail, if they are again put in for a variety of different reasons, none of the systems are set up for that to change.
Yeah. And if you're queer or trans, or depending on your charges, you're now labeled as a sex offender. So that brings a whole nother set of barriers, because you can only live within very limited areas. A lot of nonprofits won't help individuals that are registered sex offenders, because that limits what else, the other help that they can give to others. That's a huge challenge. When you talk about being released on parole or you're on probation, the biggest cycle of reincarceration comes from infractions on parole or probation. It's not that they're going back out to do another crime. A lot of times it's they can't meet their parole officer. They don't have the transportation. They can't afford the fees that they have to pay while they're on parole or probation. They don't have the family connections to be able to have stable housing. So that's an infraction. So you're going back inside. But there's this state of Iowa is doing a great program on trying to reduce those infractions by using technology. There's a lot of cornfields in Iowa. So instead of having people drive hours to meet with their parole officers, they're using technology for those live check-ins. Okay, so Shane, I'm randomly going to call you and see and make sure that you're actually at work. I need you to fire up your video and spin your phone to make sure that you're where you're supposed to be. And that comes a valid check-in. So looking at doing the same thing, it's the different definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting different outcomes. We're seeing cracks across the country where states are looking at, why are we spending all this money and we're not seeing the outcomes that we want or deserve? So they're looking at alternative ways to do it. But sex offenders is a huge concern, and that is a void that a number of people just don't want to touch. And it's unfortunate, because you can be labeled a sex offender for the most minute charge.
I was gonna
Everyone
ask
thinks,
you, can you talk about that? Because a lot of people don't realize that what can actually get you landed on the sex offenders list.
yeah, thank God I grew up in a time where there was not technology, because there's no video evidence. Just urinating on school property, that simple act can lead you to the sex offender. I have a friend whose nephew was dating. He was 18, she was 16. Parents were all good, but they got along and everything. For whatever reason, they broke up, and the parents filed statutory rape charges. And that nephew actually had to do a time behind the wall, is now labeled a sex offender for the rest of his life.
No, thank you for sharing that. And I think what's really powerful, I think what you're illustrating too, is that there are real reasons for us to have concerns around sex offenders when we talk about, again, real harms that are done to young people, real harms that are done to people from sexual assault. There's a variety of reasons to do that. But because it's a blanket statement, it also includes people who are having consensual sex in a park. It includes,
Exactly.
like you said, urination in a public school. It is a broad swath that has major ramifications and very little political courage for any politician to go in and actually try to create more of a variation among these, right? To create a little bit more of a spectrum so that we are talking about something that might, again, somebody who creates a very small infraction, like urination on a public school is still not great, but sure, it shouldn't be labeled the same thing as somebody who's in the Epstein files, right? Like we need to cross some distinctions about what that is. But culturally, we don't really want to do that. And for queer people, that's really important, because so many of these are tied to and certainly include expressions of sexual identity and places that historically, and still are at many places, criminalized or caused or could be considered under that criminal code, especially, again, for our trans community members. Like, again, gender expression can be included within that at different points, depending on how it's applied. Obviously, even drag queens at one point have been one of the things that was threatened there
Right.
in some of the codes and some of that conversation publicly in the last year or so. And we're gonna take another break. This is a really compelling conversation. It's a very deep conversation. When we come back, we are going to talk with Adam about one of I got to go to his chili lunch show that was amazing. So I want us to talk a little bit about what it means to organize safe spaces and queer spaces sort of among our communities. And then we're going to go into a speed round. So we're going to learn even more about Adam. So join us. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Mattie Bynum. We're here for Power Beyond Pride. Check back with us in just a moment.
Your mission is vital. Let a great idea help you magnify its impact. As a queer-owned graphic design and digital development agency serving nonprofits, healthcare, and education nationwide since 2015, we're dedicated to growing, empowering, and activating your advocates. Our award-winning work speaks for itself. We deliver transformative change. Ready to see your impact grow? Book a session and let's get started at agreatidea.com. That's agreatidea.com.
Hey, nonprofit leaders, change makers, and community builders. If you're navigating growth, equity concerns, or just trying to make your work better, you need to know about Orange Cap Consultation, a boutique consulting firm led by me, Melody KG. Orange Cap offers community-rooted consulting to help mission-driven teams move with clarity, equity, and have a real impact. Whether it's strategic planning, meeting facilitation, leadership development, or helping you design community programs, I've got the experience and the heart to help you build what's next. Learn more at www.orangecapconsultation.com.
Yes. All right, baby loves. We are back with Power Beyond Pride, one of my favorite places to be in the whole wide world. I tell you, I love being in the company of such great highlighted people like Shane, who decides to wear bright yellow colors and fuchsias and purples all every day of his life. Like, I love it.
I'm a
It is
human
what-
highlighter.
Yes, I'm a highlighter. That's a good thing because you highlight things in life that need to be pointed out. That's wwhy you are an
Wow.
Power Beyond Pride. Yes, we love that. Okay. Don't ask me to repeat it because I can't say it again. But real quick, before we go into our speed round and talking about chili dinners and being inclusive, I do want to take a quick moment to point out real quick. We are having a conversation about incarceration. I need people to understand that while this conversation, yes, you may not be incarcerated or someone in your house immediately may not be incarcerated, but 1 in 6 people incarcerated are trans. That's 16% of the incarceration population. And within the trans population, and they're 47%, 1 in 2 of them are Black. That's something that really bothers our community. Just 40, let me make sure I have this stat correctly because I said it correctly. 33 to 42% of all population incarcerated identify as some form of LGBTQ plus in our community.
It's absolutely powerful, and it's important to note when we talk about liberation and queer liberation, we are talking about liberation for all. And again, and Adam, I'd love to hear your thoughts and in your own queer journey and really kind of your impact as a queer person doing this work, like how these organizations really understand that number and why. And how do they see affirming spaces? Is it an important value for a lot of them?
I will say that it depends on where you are in the country. I've been in jails across the country where they've actually created specialized units. So instead of LGBT, QIA plus people working within what they call general population, where you're going to have a higher risk of assaults and rape and different things like that. They're creating queer safe units. So if you identify, then you're able to move into those types of units, and then you kind of have your own network of safety and resources by individuals. There are certain states where if you identify as trans, based on the talking points or that we see in politics now, that man only wants to go to the women's prison to be closer to women. Well, there's a whole process that we know has to happen before that person moves. But we have states that are setting up, again, specific areas for that transitional period, providing all the medical care that's needed, the hormone blockers and the hormones that they need to actually make those transitions. So there are spotlights across the country, but there are still a lot of challenges. And when I have the ability, the opportunity to go into a jail or a prison, and I get a chance to interact with the residents there, it's really powerful. And there's times that the gaydar goes off, and you kind of look at wanting to, okay, it is that person showing any sign of harm? Is that
Mm.
person showing, not that I have a whole lot of pull with the jurisdiction, but I would know the specific people to kind of point out to and say, hey, you should probably have a conversation and check in with this person. But there are spotlights, but there are way too many challenges ahead for queer
Yeah.
people.
Well,
I mean, and it differs. And the challenge is there isn't a universal response, right? So really
Right.
depends on the jurisdiction. And as you said, to be in a gender affirming space, there are very few systems in the country that will acknowledge that process. Otherwise, many of them go with birth assigned gender as as their definition for where those individuals may be. And that can create its own opportunities for harm and violence, depending
And
on,
if you started your transition prior to incarceration, and so if you were born male but were transitioning to female, you're now housed in a male facility, and then you have to go into protective custody. So you're now limited. You don't get access to programming. You're more than likely locked in your cell for 18 to 20 hours a day. So you only have a couple of hours to go make a phone call and take a shower and that type of thing. You typically eat your meals in your cell. So there's a whole spectrum of issues that happen.
and you want to go through all of that. Let's be honest. If I was to go to a men's prison right now, I'd make jokes that it would be a holiday. I really do. I tell people all the time, honey, you can't spoil my good time with that. Like, I'll tell people all the I used to make jokes and say, hey, send me to prison, honey. It's a vacation. That's a lot of cock, and I enjoy all of it. Like little things like that. Those are things that we make fun of and we joke about. But in reality, do I want to sit by myself for 18 hours in a 5x5 cell or a 9x9 cell? I already got to
Mhm.
eat shit food, and now you're going to put me in a room by myself. So now I can't even comment about the shitty food with somebody else, you know? I
Right.
think
and then
we
there's real violence and real assault. There's real reasons to be on. So again, I think this is again, and I know we'll move on to another topic here in a minute, but it's important to note that it's a real space of violence. There's real
Mhm.
repercussions, and a lot of queer people, as we talked about before. I shouldn't say a lot, but a number of queer people who are facing those challenges are doing so in ways that are not related to what we would consider, again, violent assault or criminal. Like the way that they're being entered into the system has to do sometimes with their queerness and just simply an application of homophobia, transphobia, an application of the system that is not equitable. And I think that there's a real reason queer people need to think about how they're invested in that type of carceral revision, because the systems just aren't good for our communities. They're just
Mhm.
not good.
I agree it is not equitable is the fact that I didn't get a bowl of chili from this said chili
Right.
day.
Yeah.
Everybody's
So
supposed
we
to
want
get
to talk a little bit about creating community spaces and that what it means to in your work. Adam, every day you get a chance to do some good, really thinking about ways that create opportunities for individuals, but also in your interpersonal life. You've created. I got a chance to go just this last weekend to a chili afternoon that was just great. Had a lot of community members from those in the community, but also people outside the community. Just really kind of a neighborhood event. And it just got me thinking that was really powerful around what it is to build spaces where we are getting more people to come together with very different lived experiences. And I'd love to hear a little bit about the genesis of it. And then again, what brings you joy in that experience?
So we call it Chili Fest, and my family started it decades ago in Pennsylvania. My mom and my stepfather had a rather large piece of property outside of town. I grew up in a small town of less than 500 people. but they had this property, and they would do it in October on the first day of squirrel season. Not really sure why, but there was no squirrel in the chili.
Well, that's unfortunate. I was kind of hoping that's where this was going, to be honest.
Cornbread and chili. That's a good meal combined. That's fine.
I'd eat it.
It was just a kind of like a community event. There was a lot of drinking and drugs and that type of thing going on. My stepfather passed away, and then my mom was doing it for a little bit. And then we were going to try to do this rotating through the family thing, because my brother would maybe do it, I would do it, my cousins or something like that. For the last 10 years or so, I've been the host. So it's about a 30 or 40 gallon cast iron kettle that I cook chili in the backyard on the open fire. And it's the same recipe we've used all these years. And then I just invite people. And Shane got to experience it yesterday. So we had some neighbors and some old neighbors and dear friends from different houses that we lived in here in Greensboro. And we've had just friends that we've met. So there were a wide range of ages, a big spectrum of personalities. And it was funny. I was talking to one person, and he was kind of like not really sure where he wanted to go. It was his first time here. I was like, we hosted in the garage in January, so there's a little bit of warmth for the Southerners. And I'm like, if you want to go out to the garage, it's kind of funny that the gays and days are on the left side and the straights are on the right side. You can go whatever you just sit down, pick a table. So I try to make Sean's my husband. We both try to have a few, I won't say, lack of a better term, events where we have just invited a group of people to come hang out. We do Chili Fest in January, and then we'll do a couple of pool parties here at the house and just bring community and break bread. I think it's important.
Yeah. Can you speak to that current moment? What's influencing in the current moment?
For me, I need to block out the noise a lot of times. We cut off cable a long time ago. We don't watch TV anymore because I was being consumed, and I realized that all of the negativity was actually weighing on me as a person. So I need to re-energize, and I want to re-energize by having people that I care about across spectrums come and break bread with me. And people are like, that's insane that there were probably 50 plus people here yesterday. And all day Friday setting up, I started cooking at 8:30 yesterday morning, and I finally got done cleaning up everything about 9:30 or 10 o'clock last night. But I had the best time because I got to bring everyone together and just get hugs and feel the love and being able to just be community. That's powerful for me.
Yeah. You summed it up in one word. That's community. That love is community. Love is community. And I think people forget that because we went through a season, especially of COVID, where people became very separate. And it's, you need to come back together. We need each other.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask one quick question as we wrap up this evening. When you think of those moments of chili and you think of the community moment, what's a popular song or what's a song that pops in your head that just sets the tone?
I'm bad with music. So my statement is, I don't know music, I don't have rhythm, and I can't sing. Those those gay genes skipped me. So I'll be honest with you, like this past summer, we had what we call Gay Pride in Julian. So we have just a bunch of people come over and do a big swim party in June. And I put on like Queerity's 2024 playlist, summer playlist or something like that. And for me, music's a spectrum. It depends on my mood. I have to have music in my office where I am now. I can't tell you what's playing, but I have to have that noise. But I'll walk in, it's like, all right, today's an 80s hairband day. Or today is I need EDM, or I need classic rock, or so it's a spectrum. So I can't name one song. Sorry. And that's a
No,
long-winded
it's okay,
answer.
but it leads us into a good round of quick Q&A, because now we're gonna throw out some stuff. And you can't think about it. You just got to give us your first answer, and yeah, I'm gonna kick in. So, all right, I'm gonna start with, what's a book you pretended to be reading or actually loved?
So I just finished Kamala Harris's 107 Days. Absolutely amazing book.
Was it not good? Oh my God.
Yes. I'm going to see it. I got tickets to see her in Greensboro. An amazing book.
Now Mattie's gonna have to sit next to you.
You know what? I'm just going to go to my next question. What's your favorite comfort food other than chili that you like at home?
Ice cream.
Can't go wrong with that.
Yep.
Any flavor?
Usually the higher sugar content, the better. So,
So you like Moose Tracks and Rocky Road.
there you go. Yeah. Then you throw a little extra peanut butter on top, and yeah. So.
Now that makes me want to go get some there. All right. The last thing that made you laugh out loud, other than my face?
The conversation prior to starting this with Mattie. It was, and it's not a negative thing. Just being able to, I've heard a lot of great things about Mattie, but actually being able to virtually meet her and connect with her. And I think she is an amazing spirit. And I can't wait to put my arms around her and give her a big hug.
I just want to second all of that. All of that.
Y'all are some really sweet, wise asses. I love y'all so much. Okay, look, we're cut on time, so I got to keep going. I can't even. Thank you. What's one thing people always assume about you that's not true?
That I'm straight.
Hot damn. Okay.
Do you love it or do you hate it?
I use it to my advantage when I need to, especially in the business world.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
What is your go-to self-care movie when life is challenging?
Still Magnolias.
Oh.
I wear a size 7.
Right.
It feels so good. I buy a size
a Southern Belle out of Pennsylvania. Go get that.
Sean and I will actually quote lines to each other at times. So
I love it. Okay, what's one line? Give me one line. I want one line. What's your favorite line out of it?
I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't remember. You put me on the spot, but we should sell t-shirts because everyone wants to take a whack at Weezer.
I hit Weezer! Yes! I hit Weezer. We're going to sell t-shirts. I hit Weezer. Okay, sorry.
My wedding colors are two beautiful colors or the most beautiful blush and bashful. Her colors are pink and pink. So.
Like they sprayed the whole church out with Pepto-Bismol. That's what.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, last question. What does power beyond pride mean to you?
To me, I want to push and have the uncomfortable conversations when I'm able to. I recognize my privilege as a white male, and I want to make sure that I am clearing the path and opening the door for others. I think everybody can look at their history and see that it was not a straight path or there were not rocks in the road, but you need to respect your history, and you need to understand and respect others and the lenses that they bring to where they are today. And I think as a white male, we should be clearing paths for people to, again, whatever they deem as success, but help them be as successful as they can be. And I think white males, and this is going to be probably could be controversial or whatnot, but I think white males in this country have not done that historically. And it is very powerful to be in a room with a lot of government leaders and try to navigate that conversation. So
thank you. Well, so tell us, thank you very much for being here today. And again, thank you for sharing that. Where can people follow you and your work?
So I am on LinkedIn, Adam Henderson there. And then we are Orijin.works is the company that I work for. But I'm always open to have a conversation. Feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn, and let's try to change the world together.
That's awesome. And Orijin is Orijin for those of you following that.
Good call.
Work. Absolutely. No, it's fantastic. Doing incredible work. That's Orijin.works. It's a really great, again, a really great program. I thank you so much for being here, Adam. It means
Thank
the
you for
world.
having me.
And thank you for sharing your thoughts, sharing this insight. It's incredibly powerful. We hope you'll come back and join us again.
Happy to. Thanks for having me.
I've thoroughly enjoyed you. I do want to say that hug is coming. Most definitely. Yes, sir. With a bowl of chili, hopefully, because I love my chili. Okay.
All right, we can make that work.
Amen. I'm right there with you. I'll bring the cornbread. I got you. I am Mattie Bynum, one of your amazing hosts here at the Power Beyond Pride team. And I love doing what I do so that way I can make sure that y'all are staying informed. You can follow me on Instagram at MattieSimone737, or you can follow me on Facebook at Mattie Bynum.
I am the other co-host, Shane Lukas, and you can follow me at agreatidea.com or shanelukas.com. And I'm so glad to be here with both of you today. It just means the world to me. Remember to subscribe and get your friends to subscribe to Power Beyond Pride on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and check out our site at powerbeyondpride.com.
And Power Beyond Pride is a project from A Great Idea, a queer-owned design and content agency. Learn more about them at agreatidea.com.
This episode is produced by Shane Lukas, that'd be me. Mattie Bynum is the project developer. Our editor is Jared Redding, with support from Ian Wilson. Hi, Ian.
And we are both part of the podcast awesome team here, me and Shane, and we invite you to send in your questions and comments to powerbeyondpride.com so we can answer them.
Check out our new episodes each week, and we look forward to queer change making with you next time. Thank you from all of us at Power Beyond.
Community organizers, are you ready to unlock new levels of impact? A Great Idea is offering a fantastic collection of free downloadable tools, helpful white papers, and so much more. As a queer-owned graphic design and digital development agency empowering change since 2015, we're dedicated to providing you with the resources you need to grow, empower, and activate your communities. Discover insightful knowledge and practical tools to enhance your work. Explore A Great Idea's free resources today at agreatidea.com/insights. That's agreatidea.com/insights. Your mission is vital. Let A Great Idea help you magnify its impact. As a queer-owned graphic design and digital development agency serving nonprofits, healthcare, and education nationwide since 2015, we're dedicated to growing, empowering, and activating your advocates. Our award-winning work speaks for itself. We deliver transformative change. Ready to see your impact grow? Book a session and let's get started at agreatidea.com. That's agreatidea.com.
Beyond Pride.